Have you ever just wondered why some people seem to effortlessly guide others to a decision while you, with all your expertise, just get stuck? Well, today we're diving deep into the hidden psychology of persuasion. We're going to use an incredible masterclass from the world of aesthetic medicine as our guide to reveal an ethical blueprint that honestly works in any field. Okay, let's start with the 4 words that are basically the sound of persuasion failing. I need to think about it. This isn't just someone being polite. It's a huge sign that a really crucial psychological connection just never happened. We're going to break down exactly how to avoid ever hearing this phrase again. So this gets to the core of it, right? You can have all the facts, all the data, the most impressive credentials in the world, and still not be persuasive. Why is that? Well, the answer, as we're about to find out, has almost nothing to do with the logic and everything to do with understanding what really drives human decision-making. And that brings us to our first big idea, the conversion gap. This is that little space, that little distance between a hesitant maybe and an enthusiastic yes. And the bridge that gets you across that gap, it isn't built with more data, it's built with psychology. And here it is, the truth bomb straight from our source material. Your technical skill, all your expertise, it just doesn't guarantee success. The real secret, that missing ingredient that separates the good from the truly persuasive, is a deep, deep understanding of how people actually make up their minds. Okay, so if understanding psychology is the key, where in the world do you start? Well, you start with the most important pillar of all, building instantaneous trust. And I'm not talking about a slow burn here. This is about creating a powerful, subconscious connection right from the very first moment. And when I say instantaneous, I really mean it. Get this. A person's brain subconsciously decides whether or not it's going to trust you within the first 7 seconds. Not 7 minutes, not after they've heard your whole brilliant pitch, 7 seconds. It's a totally primal, gut-level decision. This slide just breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got the clinical expert. They lead with credentials, data, jargon. But on the other side, you've got the wise friend. They lead with connection. They create harmony, tell stories that you can actually relate to, and they validate your concerns. That's what triggers that subconscious trust mechanism. And this applies everywhere. Manager, lawyer, teacher, leading with that wise friend energy is what unlocks the door. So here's your arsenal for building that trust. First, you master the mirroring game. You match their energy to create that sense of harmony. You use what we'd call a trusted, confident energy, telling stories that really resonate. You use anchor phrases to link your solution directly to an emotion they're looking for. And when objections come up, you don't argue, you neutralize them by validating the concern with a story about someone who felt the exact same way. All right, so once that trust is established, the next step is to sell the invisible. Here's the thing. People don't buy a product or a service. Not really. They buy a future feeling. An emotion, a transformation. And your job is to make that invisible outcome feel completely, totally real. And this is a brilliant example of how you start. You have to engage their sense of sight. Don't just list benefits, paint a picture they can see in their mind's eye. You're not selling reduced wrinkles, you're selling that specific moment where they see their reflection and just feel beautiful. Next, you engage their hearing. Make them actually hear the compliments, the validation they're going to get from other people. This makes that future outcome feel not just possible, but social. It makes it feel real. It's all about the positive reinforcement they'll get from the people who matter most to them. And finally, you hit the core emotion, the feeling, that almost tactile sense of confidence and freedom. This is what completes the sensory trio. It makes the future they want a tangible emotional reality in their mind right here and right now. Now, to help motivate a decision, you can use something the source calls the gentle urgency technique. And this isn't about pressure, not at all. It's a simple but really powerful contrast between the emotional cost of staying stuck versus that feeling of radiance that comes from finally moving forward. You're not creating fear, you're just clarifying the choice. It's such a vital tool for anyone who's trying to help someone overcome their own inertia. Okay, so you've built the trust, you've painted a sensory picture of the future. Now we can move on to the more advanced techniques. Now we're talking about actively guiding the other person's mind, managing what they remember, what they forget, and yeah, even how they perceive time. The human brain just gets overloaded with details, price, technical terms, competitors. Your job is to help manage their memory. So strategic amnesia helps them forget the distracting noise, while hypermnesia makes them vividly remember the music, that core emotional transformation they're really after. For a teacher, this is making students remember the lesson, not the page number. For a founder, it's making an investor remember the vision, not some minor detail in an appendix. So how does this actually work? Just look at this flow. The conversation is filled with all this noise, right? You don't ignore it, you acknowledge it, but then you immediately pivot. You shift the focus right back to the emotional outcome, the music, and you make that the single most unforgettable part of the whole conversation. Now, this is just fascinating. There's this technique called age progression, where you guide someone to mentally experience their own future success, and the effect it has is staggering. As this chart shows, it can cut price objections in half, by 50%. Why? Because they've already emotionally lived the benefit, which makes the price seem almost secondary. You can also become a master of time. It's like a consultation time warp. You actually accelerate your pace, speak with more energy when you're covering the routine technical details. That makes them feel quick and easy. But when you get to the emotional benefits, you slow right down. You use deliberate pauses. You make the outcome feel profound, important. And that brings us to the final, and frankly, the most crucial part of all of this, the ethical close. Because all these powerful psychological tools, they're just that, tools. And without a really strong ethical framework, they can be pretty dangerous. And this right here is the non-negotiable code of conduct. You have to be transparent. You have to honor every single objection as a valid request for more information. You always provide escape routes, empowering them to take their time. And your North Star, always, is that this must be for their benefit, not yours. That is the razor-thin line between persuasion and manipulation. So it all comes together in this really clear 6-step sequence. You start by building that instant trust. Then you discover their emotional drivers. You present the future by engaging their senses. You handle objections by reframing them around value. You have them experience their future success. And then you close ethically. That's it. That's the complete blueprint. And this is just the ultimate reframe, isn't it? When you use these tools the right way, ethically, you're not just a salesperson or a service provider. You become an architect of confidence. You're a trusted partner, helping someone achieve a goal that is deeply personal and important to them. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? This isn't just for doctors or consultants. In any field, the ultimate differentiator isn't going to be your technical skill. It's going to be your mastery of the psychology of human connection. That, right there, is what truly sets you apart from everyone else. Which leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. With all this knowledge, the line between persuasion and manipulation, well, it can be thin. The tools are exactly the same. The only difference is your intent. So who draws that line? You do.